Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the iPhone XS Max and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And so I wanted to help you decide if you should update to either one of them or maybe upgrade from your iPhone XS Max to a 12 Pro Max or something else. And so the first thing is the iPhone XS Max is no longer sold new by Apple. It hasn't been for over a year at this point, but you can buy it refurbished from them on their website and from other sources as well. And so from Apple, it comes in at $719 and goes up to $1,019 from Apple refurbished. Now, that comes in the three different options of the iPhone storage, which is 64, 256, or 512 gigabytes. With the iPhone 12 Pro Max, since it's the newest phone, it's also the most expensive. It comes in at $1,099 and goes up to $1,399. The nice thing is it does start with double the base storage at 128 gigabytes. It has 256 and 512 gigabyte variants. Now there's color differences between them as well. The XS Max comes in silver, gold, and space gray. This is the silver color here. And then the 12 Pro Max has four colors. This is the newer Pacific blue color. It also comes in gold, silver, and graphite, which is basically space gray. Now, the overall build of both phones is similar, but they are very different. The XS Max has the curved edge that we have with the iPhone 11 series, but the 12 Pro Max goes back to the squared off style. They're both made of stainless steel and have glass front and back. And so the first thing is you'll notice between the two, obviously, other than the squared off edges, is the overall weight. The XS Max is definitely thinner and also lighter. So it comes in at 7.34 ounces or 208 grams, where the 12 Pro Max is 8.03 ounces or 228 grams. So there's definitely a difference there. Now on the right hand side, they're a little bit different. As you can see, the 12 Pro Max has its power sleep wake button, similar to that of the XS Max. But on the XS Max, we have a SIM card tray on the right side, where on the 12 Pro Max, we have the 5G millimeter wave antenna. On the top, there's nothing on either of them. On the left-hand side, you have your silent switch, your volume buttons, and then on the 12 Pro Max, you have your SIM card tray here. So they've changed that up a little bit. Now on the bottom, they're very similar with the Lightning port. In the microphone, there's 4 microphone holes asymmetrically. And then on the speaker side, on the 12 Pro Max, you have 6, and on the XS Max, you have 7. So slight differences there. On the back, you've got glass on both, like I said, but it's a matte glass on the 12 Pro Max. It doesn't show fingerprints at all, and if you have one of the darker variants of the XS Max, you'll see fingerprints all over it. And so it's a glossy finish. By the cameras, they're very different as well. So the camera on the 12 Pro Max, obviously there's 3 huge camera lenses followed by a LiDAR sensor, a microphone, and a flash. On the XS Max, we just have 2 cameras with a flash in the middle and then a microphone. So there's some big differences there, which I'll compare a little bit later. Now the overall size is quite different as well. The 12 Pro Max is definitely taller. It doesn't feel any wider, but it does feel thicker as well, even though it's not too much thicker, but the squared off edges make it feel much larger. Now the displays do have some similarities and differences as well. They're both OLED displays, so that part's similar, but the XS Max has 3D touch on it. So when you press and hold something, it triggers the reaction much faster because you're actually measuring the pressure sensitivity on the display. So if I 3D touch or haptic touch Twitter, for example, you'll see the speed difference is very different. I actually prefer 3D touch, but unfortunately none of the new phones have that. So they've replaced it with a press and hold to complete the same action. So that part's, you still get the benefit of that, but it's not the same sort of feeling. So there is a little bit of a difference there. Now, other than that, the XS Max has a 6.5-inch Super Retina HD display. It's 2,688 by 1,242 pixels with a pixel density of 458 pixels per inch. With the 12 Pro Max, it's a little bit larger, 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR display, 2,778 by 1,284 with the same pixel density of 458 pixels per inch. Now the XS Max does not go as bright as the 12 Pro Max. It has a maximum brightness of 625 nits, where the 12 Pro Max has a regular use brightness of 800 nits, and then with HDR content goes up to 1200 nits. So if I turn it all the way up, you'll see, you're not going to be able to see it on camera, but the 12 Pro Max is definitely a little bit brighter. So there is some differences there. Also, both can play HDR, and Both displays have good viewing angles, no issues there, but in using them over the years, the XS Max and the 12 Pro Max use PWM to control the brightness of the displays. However, the rate of the PWM, or flashing of the display to control brightness, which is something you can't see with your eyes, but can affect your eyes if you're sensitive to it, is less on the XS Max. I actually find that my eyes are more sensitive to the XS Max than the 12 Pro Max, and the XS Max, it actually gives more eye strain with that in my experience. Since I actually have that issue, 1 in 10 people seem to have eye strain from it. So I would recommend the 12 Pro Max in that case. Now, like I said, both can play HDR video, so let's go into YouTube. Now, both have 4K HDR ability on YouTube. Let's go ahead and hit play so you can see. And if I rotate these, you'll see that one is a little bit brighter than the other, although you may not be able to tell that on this video because it's not filmed in HDR, but they both have that capability. Now let's take a listen to the speakers and see which one sounds a little bit better there as well. So here's the XS Max monitor, or an Apple TV even, so hopefully it looks good for you. Now everything's set in auto, and I'm recording from an iPhone 12 Pro. And here's the 12 Pro Max. Even, so hopefully it looks good for you. Now everything's set in auto, and I'm recording from an iPhone 12 Pro, so the footage... Now both sound pretty good, but the 12 Pro Max definitely goes a little bit louder and seems to have wider stereo sound. You can hear out of the top speaker a little bit better. It's a little bit wider, and I think a little bit better overall, and just sounds clearer at the highest volume. So I think that's better that way, but they're very close as far as overall volume. Now, as far as the internal specs, well, the iPhone XS Max has the A12 Bionic CPU with 4 gigabytes of RAM and the 2nd generation neural engine. Now, according to Apple, the 12 Pro Max has the A14 Bionic with 6 gigabytes of RAM and the next gen neural engine. So it's not the 2nd gen, it's the next gen, or they should just kind of bump that up to whatever generation we're on. But it is a little bit more powerful that way. Now, to show the overall speed and power of the CPU, we can try a simple thing like open a game, for example. So we'll open Minecraft on both. Give it a moment to load and see what it can do, and then we'll try something a little bit more intensive in just a moment. So we're in the game already on the 12 Pro Max. Let's go ahead and hit play on both. We'll hit create new on both, create new world, and then create. And we'll give it a moment. We should get another pop-up here. There we go. And we'll hit proceed at the same time and see what happens. Now, I've run this test a couple different times and found different results. Sometimes the 12 Pro Max is much faster. You'll see we're already loaded there. Sometimes the XS Max is much faster. But in this case, the XS Max loaded pretty quickly within a few seconds of the 12 Pro Max, and they're both going to be smooth once you're in and no issues playing the game whatsoever. Now, if we try something a little bit more intensive, maybe export 4K video, let's try that. We'll go into iMovie. Go into iMovie on both. You'll see I have the same exact movie on both of them, the same length, and I have the same title in both of them. So if I go all the way back here, I've got a little split in the footage. We'll go back on the XS Max. You'll see I have a title here that I put, so it would have to recompress that video. So let's go ahead and slide these over, and then I'll bring in a stopwatch or a timer. So I've got another phone as a timer here, or a stopwatch. Let's go ahead and go to done on both of them. So let's go ahead and hit share on both of them. They're going to export in 4K, so we'll go ahead and hit save video and hit start at the same time. And let's see what they can do. So you saw the export times were very close, within a couple seconds of one another, so that was really impressive either way to export that video that fast. Now let's go ahead and hit OK. Now if you did something like edit a photo, you're going to find it equally as fast. So if we go into Photos, and here I have the exact same photo in both of them, so we'll go ahead and hit Edit. And let's see what we can do as far as auto. So we'll hit auto on both, and you'll see that the 12 Pro was only a second or so faster, maybe half a second faster. They both have the ability to adjust different things quickly. You're not going to have any slowdowns really, and overall processing of photos and things like that will be fast on both. So the 12 Pro Max is a little bit faster in general, but not hugely faster. Now, as far as the cameras, there's a huge difference between the cameras. So for example, the forward-facing cameras on the XS Max are not as good as the 12 Pro Max. It has a 7 megapixel forward-facing camera that can record 1080p video, where the 12 Pro Max has a 12 megapixel forward-facing camera that can do 4K HDR video. So there's a huge difference with the forward-facing camera on them. So if we flip them around here, you can see that the camera from this video, you can't see a difference, but we'll take a closer look at that in just a little bit. Now, with the rear-facing cameras, obviously there's a huge difference. We have 2 cameras versus 3 and much different sensor sizes. With the 12 Pro Max, you have much larger sensors. On the XS Max, you have dual 12 megapixel sensors, but wide and telephoto cameras. So you have an f1.8 wide and an f2.4 telephoto that can do 2x optical zoom. On the 12 Pro Max, you have the same megapixel count. You have triple 12 megapixel cameras with an ultra wide f2.4, wide f1.6, telephoto f2.2, and a 2.5x optical zoom. The 12 Pro Max gets additional features though, such as night mode and deep fusion for photos, Apple Pro RAW, night portraits, 4K 60 with Dolby Vision HDR, and the LiDAR for autofocus and augmented reality apps. So there's a huge difference when it comes to the cameras. There's lots of different options between both of them as well. So let's flip the camera around here, and you can see already in the upper right we have RAW. Now, if we go into our settings, for example, we can go into the settings of both, go down to camera on the XS Max, and we do have 4K 60 options in both, but we only have HDR video capability on the 12 Pro Max. So it has some additional features which are really nice. And then also all of those night portrait modes. So let me show you a bunch of the different photos and videos to compare these so you can see them for yourself and see what you think looks best. This is the forward-facing camera of the iPhone XS Max and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And as you can see right away, the iPhone 12 Pro Max has a much wider lens on it compared to the XS Max, and both of them are doing a pretty good job of handling the background. The neural engine is actually calculating what's in the background to give us the best dynamic range, and so let me know what you think looks best and sounds best in the comments below, as this is the iPhone XS Max, and here's the microphone of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Also, the 12 Pro Max is in 4K, where the XS Max only goes up to HD, so there should be quite a significant difference between the two of them. Now, the batteries of both phones are actually quite different as well. Even though the XS Max is close in size to the 12 Pro Max, it's just not as big as far as the battery. It's a 3,174 milliamp hour battery that Apple says is capable of playing back video for up to 15 hours. With the 12 Pro Max, it's a 3,687 milliamp hour battery that Apple says is capable of playing back video for 20 hours. So there's a huge difference. You get about a quarter more battery life with the 12 Pro Max, and in my experience, you're going to see about 7 hours of screen on time with the XS Max and 10 to 12 hours of screen on time with the 12 Pro Max. I might have gotten 8 hours at best with the XS Max recently. So you're going to see much better battery life with the 12 Pro Max, not only due to the larger battery, but due to it having a more efficient CPU or processor. So that's something that's very different between both of them. Now, both of them do support fast charging, 50% in 30 minutes with a 20-watt charger, and both have wireless charging capability. Now, with the 12 Pro Max, you have Apple's new MagSafe connection, so it wirelessly charges using magnets to align it to give you a faster speed. So you have 15 watts of fast charging wirelessly using the correct adapters. So you have that along with other accessories such as cases that have MagSafe in them, and then also additional third-party accessories that help you hold it in place, maybe in a car, for example. So that's something that's just a little bit nice. You can use MagSafe with a XS Max, but it doesn't adhere magnetically. So if you line it up in the middle, you'll see it starts charging. So it is an option, but it's not something that will attach itself magnetically to the back, which is just a nice little feature that you have with the 12 Pro Max. Now, wireless antennas are a little bit different as well. With the 12 Pro Max, like I said, we have 5G. So we have faster speeds overall if you have 5G in your areas, and you also have a Qualcomm modem versus an Intel modem in the XS Max. The Intel modems were okay, but many people said they have issues with connectivity and calls dropping and things like that over time. With the 12 Pro Max, I've yet to experience any of that, and it seems to be much more reliable overall. Of course, with 5G, you generally get faster speeds depending on your area, and then also you have different Wi-Fi options. The XS Max is capable of Wi-Fi 5 and Bluetooth 5.0, so Wi-Fi 5 is 802.11 AC, where the 12 Pro Max has 802.11ax or Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.0. So that is a little bit better with the 12 Pro Max. Now, the IP ratings or dust and water resistance on the XS Max is IP68 for 2 meters up to 30 minutes. With the 12 Pro Max, Apple's increased that to IP68 6 meters for 30 minutes. So you have additional water resistance, but again, Apple will not cover that if you've damaged your phone via water. So just keep that in mind. It will help. Maybe if you get some water on it, it shouldn't really affect it, but that should help you if you do drop your phone in a puddle or something like that, and it should last a little bit longer with the newer phone. Now, which one should you choose? Well, if you can get a XS Max for a reasonable discount compared to the 12 Pro Max, then sure, this would be a great phone. If you still have one, it's still a good phone and still plenty capable and will get updates for years. Apple generally has supported phones for about 5 years, sometimes up to 6 years, so you'll still get at least 3 more years of updates with the XS Max as far as iOS, based off what they've done in the past. So that means iOS 17, maybe even iOS 18 or further on, depending on what they decide to do. With the 12 Pro Max, being that it's brand new, of course, you're going to get 5 years minimum out of that and many more iOS updates up to iOS 19 or maybe even 20 at this point. So you have that. Now, as far as the price, though, like I said, if you can find a 12 Pro Max and a XS Max at the same price, well, then I would go with the 12 Pro Max. Again, you've got a lot of advantages with the camera, the battery life, and more. But if you have a XS Max and you really enjoy the phone and it's working just fine for you, well, then I wouldn't necessarily run out and upgrade unless it's something that you want specifically on the 12 Pro Max. I wouldn't upgrade specifically for 5G, for example, but for the cameras and maybe the better display, then I would go that route. It really comes down to what your budget is and which one has the features that you want. If you don't care about the camera and battery life isn't a huge concern, well, then get the XS Max. If not, then get the 12 Pro Max. But let me know which one you prefer in the comments below, and I'd love to hear which phone you're using now. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.